This is a presentation on epithelial tissue by Dr. K. So we were talking about the primary tissues. There are 4 primary tissues in the body: epithelial tissue, connective tissue, nervous tissue, and muscular tissue. Today we're going to talk about epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue is usually very thin, and it's one layer or a few layers thick. The cells are closely adhering, and below the epithelium is a connective tissue layer. There is a basement membrane which anchors the epithelium to the connective tissue below it. So between the epithelium and the connective tissue, there is a basement membrane. Now the epithelial cells have got a basal surface and an apical surface. The basal surface is towards the basement membrane, and the apical surface is towards the cell surface. So the epithelium forms the external linings of the body and also the internal lining of the body. It forms the internal lining of many organs also. So the skin is the external lining of the body, and it's made of epithelial tissue. Also, most of the glands are composed of epithelial tissue. So in this diagram, you can see that there is a layer of epithelial tissue, and you can see the nucleus is towards the basal aspect, or towards the basal layer, or towards the basal surface of the cell. And below the epithelial tissue is the connective tissue, and that's the basement membrane. If you look at the features of the basement membrane, one of the most important feature is that this layer is avascular. That means there's no blood vessels in the epithelial layer. So how does it receive blood supply? It receives blood supply from the connective tissue layer below it. The connective tissue layer below it contains blood vessels, and the connective tissue provides the nutrients for the epithelium. So that's the features of the epithelial tissue. Epithelium may be simple epithelium or stratified epithelium. Simple epithelium, it contains one layer of cells. So that is a simple epithelium. So here you can see a simple epithelium with one layer of cells, and all the cells rest on the basement membrane. There are 3 types of simple epithelium. You can have a simple squamous epithelium, a simple cuboidal epithelium, or a simple columnar epithelium. This depends on the shape of the cells. So a simple squamous epithelium has got squamous cells, which are flat cells. A simple cuboidal epithelium consists of cuboidal cells, which are square-shaped cells. And simple columnar epithelium consists of columnar cells, which are tall, narrow cells. The other type of epithelium is a stratified epithelium. The stratified epithelium consists of 2 or more layers. So that is a stratified epithelium. 2 or more rows of layers, rows of cells. So if you look at the basement membrane, you find that only the deepest layer of cells touch the basement membrane. So that is a stratified epithelium. And then you have what is known as a pseudostratified epithelium. It appears stratified, but it is not really stratified. If you look carefully, every single cell is touching the basement membrane. So when every single cell is touching the basement membrane, it is a kind of a simple epithelium, but it is not a simple epithelium. That's why we call this a pseudostratified epithelium. So a simple squamous epithelium has got a single layer of thin flat cells. So these are the flat cells, and the flat cells are called squamous cells. That's why it's called a simple squamous epithelium. This allows rapid diffusion or transport of substances. The simple squamous epithelium is found in the lining of intestine, where there is rapid diffusion of nutrients, in the lining of alveoli of the lungs, where there is diffusion of oxygen and carbon dioxide, and also the lining of blood vessels, otherwise known as endothelium, where there is a rapid diffusion of nutrients and diffusion of gases. So that is a simple squamous epithelium, usually seen in the lining of the intestine, lungs, and also the lining of blood vessels. Simple cuboidal epithelium has got a single layer of square or round cells. So that is a simple cuboidal epithelium. The main function is absorption of nutrients. They also secrete some mucus. Examples of a simple cuboidal epithelium are the cells of the liver, the thyroid gland, and the kidney tubules. Simple columnar epithelium has got a single row of tall, narrow cells. So those are the tall, narrow cells. That's the simple columnar epithelium. They're tightly packed. Excuse me. Cells have a apical surface and a basal surface, which we discussed before. This is the apical surface of the cells, and this is the basal surface, which is towards the basement membrane. All the cells touches the basement membrane, and the free surface which is the apical surface, has got a brush-like border because of the presence of microvilli. So the microvilli is present on the apical surface, and that gives the cells a brush-like border. There is an oval nucleus, which is more towards the basal half of the cell. And another thing which you notice here, you see some cells here. These are goblet cells. The goblet cells produce mucus and excretes mucus into the cell, into the surface. So these are the cells that produce mucus, and there's a lot of mucus secretion on the surface. These cells are this epithelium, simple columnar epithelium, is seen in the lining of the stomach and also in the lining of the intestine, so mainly in the digestive tract. And the function is to absorb nutrients and also to secrete mucus. So the surface area is increased by the presence of these microvilli, which gives the simple columnar epithelium a brush-like border appearance. And here we can see a pseudostratified epithelium, which we discussed earlier. They appear to be stratified, but that means they appear to be multi-layered, but they are not multi-layered. And also they contain goblet cells. and we said goblet cells secrete mucus. So the pseudostratified epithelium is seen in the respiratory tract and also seen in the male urethra. So we had a similar appearance in the simple columnar epithelium. So simple columnar and pseudostratified columnar epithelium have goblet cells which produce mucus, which is a protective coating over the mucous membrane. So we mentioned about the stratified epithelia. Stratified epithelia has got 2 to 20 or more layers of epithelial cells. They have multiple layers, and only the deepest layer attaches to the basement membrane. The stratified epithelia are generally named as per the shapes of their apical cells. For example, stratified squamous is composed of squamous cells. Stratified cuboidal has got cuboidal cells on the surface. Uroepithelium or transitional epithelium is another type of stratified epithelium. So the deepest layers of the stratified epithelium undergo continuous mitosis. The daughter cells push outwards, and as it moves towards the surface, they become flatter and they migrate up. Finally, when they reach the surface, they die and flake off, and this is called exfoliation or desquamation. So there are two types of stratified squamous epithelia. There is the keratinized and there is the non-keratinized. Keratinized is found on the skin surface and it is resistant to abrasion. It's very protective. Non-keratinized lacks the surface layer of dead cells, so it is not as abrasion resistant as the keratinized squamous epithelium. So the keratinized stratified squamous epithelium is seen in areas of heavy stress. For example, the palms and the soles of the foot. These are the areas where there is heavy stress and they are heavily keratinized. There are multiple layers of cells which become flat and scaly as they move towards the surface. The surface layer is composed of dead, compressed cells. The keratinized stratified squamous epithelium resist abrasion, they prevent water loss, and give protection against pathogenic organisms. The non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium is the same as